Welcome, Sharpies, to Steel Sharpen Steel. You don't know what it does for me each and every week to see those little eyeball counts jumping up. I am Tom Cunningham.
I am Joyce Stevens.
And I am Chuck Hobbs.
And we are Steel Sharpen Steel. It is obvious that we are a person down, an important person. She is playing mommy right now on a much-deserved break. And so, Sharon, we wish you all the best. Get your rest and enjoy that baby child today. But we have a lot to talk about. Hello, Anthony Turner. We have a bunch of things. As I said, Daniel Kaluuya Gold. Let's give my boy Black Messiah a little bit of love for winning that Oscar Gold. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Go on, Daniel.
Right.
And
I am revolutionary.
I am a revolutionary.
Mm-hmm.
Revolutionary.
Revolutionary.
That's how you say it.
It is how you say it. I mean, I didn't really fully appreciate because sometimes the accent did go a little in and out. But when I started looking at additional Fred Hampton clips, I was like, oh, okay, so he really was kind of like
He did his homework. He knew the assignment.
He did know the assignment. Mm-hmm. Unlike Rudy Giuliani, when it comes down to things like, oh, I don't know,
law,
understanding the law, like at all, even marginally. But okay. Daniel was an absolute joy. Judas and the Black Messiah had a couple of wins. Her, at the tender age of 23, is half of an EGOT away from joining the ranks of luminaries many, many times her age. I think Lin-Manuel Miranda is probably the youngest guy or the youngest person to get a full EGOT plus a Genius grant. But her is halfway there. She got the song for her performance in Judas and the Black Messiah. And she also, that's right. And she's wearing her croissant lipstick and her croissant top too, flexing and expressing all of the deltitude in the universe.
Note the lack of symbols, though.
Yeah, absolutely. No, those of us who were made, especially at HBCU campuses, understand there's things that y'all do and there's things that y'all don't do. And so what you don't do, what you not finna do is do substances while you are representing with your letters.
With the letters on. There will be no videographic or any sort of imagery that says someone from this organization does these things. Not Indeed. At the same time.
Nope.
Yeah. Happy Deltaversary, Joy.
That is a happy Deltaversary. Happy. Now, how many years is this for you?
23. This is now 23 years in.
All right, OG. 23.
You're OG.
I know. I'm excited.
It is an exciting time. It is a remarkable achievement. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
I celebrated the reverse of those numbers earlier.
Really? 32?
32 years.
Wow.
And I got 25 in, going on 26. So you'll hit the quarter century club soon enough. That's your next marker.
Yeah, we are officially, there's no measure by which we are not old school.
Right.
Like we go back onto the campus and they talk about old head. If you're not turning around, you're just being a little bit ridiculous.
AOG. I now answer to auntie.
Right.
I got hard candy in all my pockets.
No offense.
Not hard candy.
What's wrong with your life?
Do you bring plastic seat covers or do you keep those in the trunk?
So that's a whole thing. I don't want to talk about it. Just know that there's nothing on my couch.
All right.
Yes.
All right. We have something that is a bit interesting this week in terms of our lineup because, of course, the biggest political news this week was Joe Biden's address to the Joint Congress. And, I will tell you, there are a lot of people who are talking stuff about Joe Biden and what he has and has not done for Black people. I'll tell you one of the things that was a benefit to my house outside of the stimulus, which, thank you. But I don't know how many of you are on the Obamacare or the ACA situation, did y'all get a recheck on your subsidy?
Yes, they were like, "Yo, check your credit, son. Like you might be able to get something." I was like, "For real?"
And I was like,
"Yeah,
wait, what now?" Because when the money came out for the insurance, I was just like, "Huh, that's less." So I will just tell you, Black people, if you are not on the ACA, or if you have really, really good insurance from your employer and you don't think that you need to be on the ACA, please check it out, because I am not going to turn down government money while the spigot is open. They've been letting billionaires get away with it forever, so I'm here for it. You go on ahead and spigot it, let it trickle right down into my bank account. I don't have any problem. I don't have any shame. I am all too happy.
You can't have it back. I don't care what y'all do next year. This is how it is. I will not owe you a thing next year. My money. What about my revenues? My money now, punk.
All right, Debo. Delta Debo.
Okay.
Rolled off the ACA 2 years ago. I'm sorry that you rolled off. Cause,
hey man, it ain't for everybody. But
it ain't for everybody. It's not for me. I have insurance through an employer, but for the fam bam.
So I'm self-employed, and so I have the ACA, because otherwise I'd be out here putting Robitussin on everything. And I got a good deal. I was happy. So it went down from the year before to this year, and now it's gone down a little bit more. Right. I'm cool. And if I think about the benefits that I have now versus the premium benefits I got with the company that I used to be with, I ain't missing nothing. Right. And this allows me the freedom to, every time somebody's like, "Hey, Joy, you want to come work for me?" Feeling like Sophia. Hell no. No. I'm good doing what I'm doing. Hey, how'd you like to work for me? Be my whatever director. Hell no. I mean, usually I say thank you for the opportunity. However, I'm disinclined to acquiesce to your request. I'm good. I mean, literally, that feeling, every time it happens, I feel like a little black angel got her wings. Every time somebody offers me something, I'm like, I don't need
it. You know, what you're saying reminds me of a podcast that I'm listening to right now. It just completed. It was 5 episodes. It's called The Improvement Association. And the backdrop of it is the North Carolina scandal in 2018 of the operative who was collecting absentee ballots and put all that fraud into the mix, and how the congressperson won by 800 votes, and then they went back and they looked, and it was a scandal. But the whole thing was, in the midst of him doing all of those shenanigans and chicanery, they tried to throw shade on a black PAC in that same county, Bladen County, and tried to say that the black PAC was doing all this stuff to throw attention away from the guy who had been indicted. None of the black operatives had ever been indicted, ever. Mm-hmm. But they tried to throw this up as a smoke cloud and all these other things. And so this podcast, it's called, again, The Improvement Association. It's by the team that produced Serial, which was an offshoot of This American Life. And so they do a pretty good job of podcasts. And this one I thought was really excellent. And Zoe Chase is the host, and she gets into a lot of stuff. So look for it on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen. The Improvement Association. It is well worth it, and it will make you mad because it's 6F shenanigans.
So I don't need to listen to it. When I tell I stay mad all day, I don't need no reason to be mad.
I understand Bernadette Banner, but let me just tell you, this is worth listening to, just because the first 2 episodes, I thought it was going to be like some whataboutism or some yes and but. But by the time you get into episode 3 and 4 and 5, she really does bring it on home, and her skepticism at the 6F foolishness is really refreshing, and I ended up enjoying it. I mean, it's a well worth a listen, and something that I hope that you would take the time to take a look. Look at that. See, you know what the real flex is? When you were in control of putting the comments on the screen and you see somebody, that's the flex. Yes, I am looking very fly and cute. Yeah. That's right. I am.
Well, thank you.
That's why I put that comment on there.
Can't stop.
Won't stop. So let's get into it. Chuck, I want to save Biden and Scott's non-response for later. So let's get into one of the juicier bits of things. Let's talk about Rudy Giuliani and the raid of his crib. What is your take on the tea leaves that the apprehension of so much of his material is going to bode for Mr. Giuliani?
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, it's getting hectic. What you have here, one of the amazing aspects of federal prosecutions as opposed to most state level prosecutions is that the federal government is very patient. And when they are out trying to put things together in terms of either an individual prosecution or a wider based type investigation that could net lots of people, they take their time, they are meticulous, and it's almost like building blocks. So you start off with this one, and then you go to that one, and then you go to the next one. And what's so interesting is, and I'm going to use that and segue into another big federal investigation we're working into that's in the works right now, is what's happening here is when they knock on that door at 6:00 a.m. to raid, in my experience, it is very rare that they are raiding just for their health. There's not a whole lot of oops, my bad when it comes to fat. Now, it happens sometimes. There are sometimes that they'll be trying to interview people, look into stuff, and nothing comes of it. But asking you to come and sit with the agent in charge to talk at the field office is different from knock, 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 open the door. It's the police. It's the FBI. That's a whole different ball of wax. And again, my experience is when they come with those blue and gold jackets and they're 15, 20 deep and they're weaponed up and what have you, it usually doesn't take much longer for folks to wind up getting indicted if they're not already under indictment that's sealed. And again, they're just still there just to try to pat the hand, so to speak. So what does that mean? Well, we know that Rudy Giuliani is a character in the greater potential investigations into he with no name, right? And so with that in mind,
Voldemort.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not Voldemort.
I like that, Joy. So where I am speculating right now is depending on what they pulled. Again, they might already have an indictment sealed somewhere against this individual, and this knock and going in and searching and looking is just again to build upon what they think they probably already know. Because what I'm trying to explain, and many of you already know this, but I'll just explain it from experience. It's one thing for them to have information. It's another for them to have the individual, because what happens so often in the federal system is, man, people get to talking. It's not like what you see in state court. The overwhelming majority of federal criminal cases end in pleas. It is very rare that people wind up actually going to a full out trial in the federal system. And that is because what we're talking about, the hand is so pat to the point where when you're sitting there in that field office and they're rolling out, then you did this and you did that, and we know you did that, and we pulled the records for this. Ain't nothing you can do but to plea. And then guess what you're looking for? Mercy. You're looking to cooperate. So what they're going to be trying to do is, Rudy is what, mid-70s, maybe 74.
He don't want to go to jail.
Yeah. At the end of the day, he's going to get in there and start. It was Craig, Tony, Mike, Don, Block. He's going to get in there and get to talking because he doesn't want to spend any time in Club Fed at any point in time. So just stay tuned. And when I say there's a parallel structure here, it's the same with Matty Gaetz, the erstwhile congressman here in North Florida, who continues to pretend as if there's nothing to see here, but there's something to see. And I know we'll talk about that a little more when we get into the episode. But again, the reason Gaetz is going to be in trouble is because people have already rolled on him. His best friend has already spilled the beans and corroborated stuff. And so, yeah, stay tuned on this with Rudy Giuliani. That wasn't a minor event this week. That was an actual major event. And it could, again, bode well for future prosecutions of a whole lot of folks. Let's just say that.
Well,
And I'm going to tell you right now, in my Nostradamus voice, Rudy Giuliani did not kill himself.
boom.
Got you.
This is the thing that kind of gets
Boy.
me about the whole Rudy situation. You
Yeah.
can call it hubris. You can call it whatever you want. You had your chance to get a preemptive federal pardon.
Mm-hmm.
You had
Mm-hmm.
your chance. And you ain't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And the one who could have had given it to you is no longer in a position to give it to you. And even if the fabric of space-time were to be rent asunder and he did get in a position where he could run and would win in 2025, Rudy, you might not make it to 2025.
Right.
When he can get in and then give you a pardon. And there are some people on my page, and Chuck, I know we've been talking about it a little bit. Some people feel that in some way, this is the Justice Department opening a whole can of worms and attempting to relitigate some of the things that Hunter Biden may or may not have done, or that Joe Biden may or may not have done. What is your weigh-in on how the Department of Justice works when it's dealing with alleged activities that have been warmed over and gone over several times over the past 2 years involving a sitting president? Because I know what happened with Trump. What happened with Trump is that they didn't do anything.
Right.
They literally, if Trump's name was attached to it, it was like, put it aside.
Right.
And yet and still, this Rudy Giuliani investigation started under the Trump administration, even though it wasn't acted on as aggressively.
Absolutely. And so what it comes down to is it's almost comical to hear our fellow Americans from the right who consistently want to end everything with "but Hunter Biden." It is the new "but" her emails. It is the same thing as the blaming Antifa and Black Lives Matter for everything that's gone wrong. I anticipate within the next week, Black Lives Matter will be blamed for whatever it is that the FBI was looking for at Rudy Giuliani's places as well. So with that in mind, number one, I don't believe that there is much to at all the Hunter Biden stuff. You know, I've got a lot of friends who aren't necessarily Trump supporters, but they aren't Biden supporters either, who consistently try to bring the y'all just wait, y'all just wait, y'all just wait, and trust. Tom, if there was something there, if there was there under the last 4 years, and as much as Trump was concerned about Joe Biden running and looking for any edge that he could to try to one up and defeat the candidate that he considered to be the most dangerous to him, trust me, the indictments would have come under Bill Barr and who was it, Jeff Sessions?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what have you, it would have come. So again, I'm not saying Hunter Biden is perfect or hasn't done some things that are untoward in his life, but clearly he hasn't done anything that would have warranted them jumping him and coming to his house with the blue and gold jackets on, bamming on the door at 6 a.m. And that always trips me out. They come early in the morning like that. And that's when I say real life, that's also in rank and file people's cases too. Yeah. It's really funny to me. It's not funny. It's never funny when you get that 6 a.m. knock, but they love to come in the wee hours when it's dark in the morning. They haven't done that to Hunter Biden. So I'm thinking that he is safe. Now, in regard,
so that's a long time ago. 6 a.m, police at my door.
Yeah, no doubt about
it. They did it to Roger Stone.
They did it exactly. They did it to Roger Stone because that's when you're in your most vulnerable, when you are asleep. Most people, whether they've been out all night, unless they work night shift, they are asleep at 6 a.m. And even if you're awake, you just woke up, and they caught you without being prepared. It's the most unprepared you're going to be all day. That's why they do it.
Haven't had your coffee.
Not sure if you're dreaming, all kind of stuff.
Right. You just
but Tom, you know, one of the points that you just made that was spot on, extremely salient, is the concept that you had an opportunity to get that preemptive pardon, bruh. And at the end of the day, like Jason Hayes is saying, didn't Barr block the warrants of Rudy? At some point in time, I like the word that you use, Tom. It's the hubris, which is, you know, you haven't dotted the I's and you haven't crossed the T's, but there's an arrogance there. And I'm not going to lie. We've talked about this a lot since we started this platform last August. There are some things about who has no name, that you actually have to begrudgingly say, you know what, this dude is different. I don't like him, but he does it his way, right?
Yeah.
And one of those is he infuses people with a level of confidence in that they think they're going to be able to be Teflon Don, no pun intended, like he is, and they're not. Okay. Again, and his day of reckoning will come too. But what I'm getting at, though, is that when you see the Matt Gaetzes of the world walking around still acting as if he's going to do rallies and he's heading initiatives with Marjorie Taylor Greene and all this type of stuff, and I'm like, bruh, it is a matter of time before they put the bracelets on your wrist. Like, you really need to calm down and lawyer up. Same with Rudy Giuliani. There's a part that I think he was believing the hype, like Public Enemy used to sing, in terms of like, well, we're going to be all right. I'm Rudy Giuliani. I'm America's mayor from 9/11. And he's not all right, bruh. And that's what made that meme so funny this week with the Leonardo DiCaprio from Django Unchained with the with the laugh. You know, Bill Barr blocked him. Merrick Garland's like, no, bruh. You got to answer. You got to answer for Sonny. You know, so that's kind of where things are right now. And I'm enjoying it because I've been sitting here waiting. I'm like, when are the other shoes gonna drop? Like, now it's 100 days in. Like, it's time to get some get back around here. And so it's gonna be interesting to see where things go.
Joy, did you want to jump in or?
Yeah, I want to speak back to, because I'm always gonna come at you with my DE&I perspective. So I want to speak back to the idea of hubris. When you have been collectively as a demographic untouchable for 450 years, you start to believe your own bullshit. And even though we are not anywhere near where we need to be, I still believe that there are miles and miles to go before we sleep when it comes to criminal justice reform, getting rid of the school to prison pipeline, et cetera, et cetera. The accountability of white people has been on the rise. You can almost map it to the changes in the demographics in the United States. It went from being 80% white to being 70% white, and now it's 60% white. 80% getting away with whatever the hell they want to 70%, and now it's 60%. And so it ain't a done deal like it used to be in the 60s and the 50s and the 30s. You can't just, think about the guy down in Florida. I think his name is Michael Dunn, who killed a young man in the Jeep. I'll get away with it because I'm white and because I can just say I was standing my ground. And they're like, nah, bro, you're going to jail because you killed some people. So more and more Black people are being seen as human beings worthy of life. It doesn't happen nearly as much as it should. There's still massive problems. But what I'm saying is, unless you do have that qualified immunity of the police force, hey, bro, that shit ain't going the way you thought it was going to go from the 80s. It ain't like that no more.
Not at all.
Being held accountable. And they're like, but I'm Rudy Giuliani. You are prisoner number 946325.
Yeah.
Who you are now.
Yeah. And what's sad about that is, I haven't shared Giuliani's politics for the most part for a long time. I mean, there's some issues. I mean, where through the years you might be like, okay, we might kind of see eye to eye on this or that. But he allowed himself to become a buffoon over the even if I disagreed with him on policy through the years, I never thought I would see him become a buffoon. And the other person I think about on that is our Morehouse brother, Joy, Herman Cain.
Cain. Okay.
Herman Cain was, from everything I've heard from the real OG Morehouse guys, he was a bright light on campus. I mean, this was a brilliant man, and you wouldn't know it. The majority of the world, notwithstanding his physics degree and computer science, and went up to Purdue and killed their program right after integration in computer science, and did well in business, reforming so many businesses over the years. And yet he allowed himself to be reduced to a caricature for the last 10 years of his life. And I can't figure that out for the life of me in the GOP, where that's coming from in terms of, okay, I'm going to go from being a statesman like Giuliani was, like Herman Cain was, from what I've heard and what I've read once he died last year, from people who knew him well in the 60s and 70s. And I'm like, I wish I had known that Herman Cain, because all I can think of is, ooh, Becky Stan.
That's all I remember.
999 and not wearing the mask last year, and then ultimately dying from not wearing the mask. Rest in peace, brother.
Go ahead, Joy. Oh, there you go.
I'm gonna tell you why you see brilliant Black people, because it's not just the men. We have the Candace Owens of the world. I'm gonna tell you why you see them selling their souls like this. The love of money is the root of all evil, right? There is a capitalistic desire that has been engendered in this country to go for self over all others, to sell out your family, your friends, your community, your country. Think of how many people have either gone to prison or gotten away with selling government secrets to other countries for money. We do this. We turn on each other for money, and they have turned their backs on us for money. They've turned their backs on their own friends who are looking at them like, man, we used to be cool. I thought I knew you, man. Like, what's up with you? Hey, man, I'm getting these dollars. You better get with it. But it's such a temporary benefit. It's such a temporary, even if they get money for the rest of their natural lives, the damage that they do lasts for generations. And they don't think about that because they can only see what's right in front of them, which is a stack of cash that the GOP is giving them to continue to say the bullshit that they're saying. And even they know it's wrong. Dante's Inferno said there is a special level in hell for hypocrites. And that's where they're going to be eventually. Herman is probably there.
Joy, you mentioned something about selling secrets. And this is one of the things that scares me most about the post-Trump presidency, because he can't hold water for shit. And when he's trying to impress somebody and I still get my briefings and da 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 da, and this one, I mean, he couldn't wait when Israel had let our people know, our intelligence services know, that they had conducted this little thing, and he went and told Russia, like, you know what Israel just did? I'm big, I know all the secrets. You're president of the United States.
Of course.
Everybody expects you to know secrets, bruh. This is not some Mar-a-Lago shindig. Yeah. You're supposed to know secrets because you're the damn president. And as the president, and now the former president, one can only imagine if there is a scintilla of gain that he can derive from any information that comes out of the government, because everybody in the government is a deep state agent against him. So why should he keep any secrets anyway? So it's frightening to think what this man-child has visited on the country and what he could potentially visit onto the country. And you were talking about Teflon Don before. This is exactly what I'm talking about. When he was in office, he had a cloak he could put over you. He could stand with you with Secret Service. He could invite you onto Air Force One. You could get pictures with him. And he was the most powerful man in the world. Now he can't even tweet. And you think that because you are still praising him, that the troglodyte acolytes that still are, caught up in his cult of personality are going to transfer that affection onto you and elevate you. You could hold your seat. Certainly Jim Jordan's not likely to lose his seat because of continuing to support Trump. But if he thinks he's going to become a presidential candidate, just because he pretends he's Trump, if Matt Brillcream Gaetz thinks he is going to rise to be a potential senator because of the extra beeswax emollients that he puts on his lips that he keeps kissing Trump's ass with, it's not happening. I don't understand what you people don't understand. Trump was a once-in-a-lifetime celebrity candidate. Ronald Reagan was a governor and an actor, a trained actor, and a governor and a head of a union and all of this. And so he slipped in and was able to do it for 2 terms. Do you know how many one-term presidents went on to be like magical ballers in the political space? None of them.
Right.
Jimmy
Right.
Carter has done a lot of amazing things because Jimmy Carter was like, I don't care about being president anymore. Let me just use my platform, such as it
I'm gonna go
is,
build some
to do
houses.
good stuff.
And be a good man. Be a good
and be
human
a good
being.
man.
Mhm.
George H.W. Bush was like, okay, I got my son in. Let me go back to Kennebunkport or whatever and sit with Babs and whatever. But you don't get to flex as a one-termer, bro.
Right.
Not in modern politics. You just don't get to do it. Nobody cares.
But here's the thing, though. I just got this picture. I just got somebody to send me this flyer as we were speaking. Check this out. There's a Trump caravan in Hammond, Indiana this Saturday. Young conservatives of Southern Indiana, May 1st, starting at the Walmart. The Walmart, right? But they're still
get you some Hanukkah sausage for the tailgate later.
But that's the thing is they are still stumping for Trump. They're not stumping for the Republican Party.
Right.
They're not stumping for the grand old. They're not stumping for McConnell or anybody else. They're still Trump fans because it was specifically a cult of personality.
Right.
They follow the person and his personality. They're not following, they don't give a damn what happens in the country now because they're still following their leader and they will follow him off a cliff and he will lead them off a cliff. But that also means that they're not checking for anybody else. So anyone like Cruz or Gaetz or McConnell or Tim Scott thinks that they're going to create a similar frenzy just by invoking his name. Nah, bro, I don't know you. You don't look like Trump. You ain't no Trump. And that's how it's going to be.
You ain't orange.
Right.
Yeah.
Look at you, your lily white skin. You ain't orange. You ain't got no comb over. I don't see no burgers. You ain't Trump.
But don't be confused. It's not just Southern Indiana. There was a Trump parade in Burbank, California last week. The folks who are crazed about him are crazed about him.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yes,
it's interesting that even though the diehard, it's smaller and smaller and smaller. The diehards are going to start to flake off eventually because his ranking within Republican politics is already diminishing.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time, somebody will emerge or, the next thing will come, whatever. But it will be interesting to see how long it takes New York. Come on, Southern District of New York.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Can we get something? Letitia or Cyrisha, make it happen, please. I want all of the tax returns out. I know you've got millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of pages of documents. But like you said, Rudy is dead. He ain't got no wife. The last image that everybody saw of him in public is him with his hands in his pants in a Barack movie. And people are saying, oh, well, he said that he had an agreement that said he's not a lobbyist. It's on paper. This man lied to you for 6 months about Krakens and affidavits and fraud, and then got in front of judges and said, well, no, we're not talking about fraud. That was just for TV.
Yeah, no.
He's an inveterate liar. And you're hanging your hopes on a man who is without any scruples, without any real understanding of legal practicality these days.
Yeah.
I mean, he might have been a tough guy in the 80s when he was going after mobsters and all that, but he's unhinged now.
And it's sad because to a great extent, I think that Giuliani was so marginalized in 2016 and heading into 2017. He was just so happy to be, that meme that's out that people use in a lot of ways, but I don't know what movie it's from, but it's 3 look like 18th century white guys standing around, and you usually see the meme where it says, this is what it looks like when you know the DJ and you're standing in the DJ booth. They've got like the long wig and what have you. Yeah. It's being adjacent, so to speak, to the man next to the man. And I think Giuliani was just so happy to be of some use because he felt as if, wow, nobody's checking for me. I'm not on the Sunday shows anymore. And so I remember the glee that was on his face, man, back in 2017, just to be like, hey, I'm doing work for the president now. And that's kind of sad. It reminds me of the Sinatra line, losing my timing this late in my career. And he lost it, with Descending the Clowns. How appropriate is that? He lost it. And again, like I was saying earlier, it's the caricature thing where I didn't always agree with Giuliani, but I'm very disappointed that he allowed himself to be used in that way, because for everything we've learned, he was a great prosecutor at one point in time. And so that you go from putting away the real boys, the mobsters, and what have you, and now, like you said, Tom, you're sitting there and you're chasing windmills with the whole, there was election fraud where there was no fraud. And I'm going to say that again, there was no fraud, folks. If there was fraud there, many of these Republican judges across the country would have jumped on the opportunity, because there are no Democratic lovers. Trust me. I know we talk about the independent judiciary, but all of those judges have their political leanings as well. And so with that in mind, it's very sad, but I'm not going to cry any tears for him. I mean, he's made his bed and he's going to have to lie in it.
Well, you mentioned windmills, and what you forgot to mention is that those windmills are killing American eagles.
See.
He's caught in a bunch of different things. He can't win for windmilling.
Yeah. And you know what? I have to give some credit to us again. We joke about this a lot. On tonight's show, we've had Tom breaking down SAT words. Parents, let your children. We've got troglodytes. We've had ebullience. You were talking about Hugh. We had Joy talking about Dante's seventh circle. Let your kids watch Steel Sharp and Steel when we're not after dark. Now, when we're after dark, put the kids away.
Leave it alone.
Yeah, they might hear some stuff they don't, and see some stuff they don't want to hear and see. But other than that, let them listen in, because that's the way you learn. So I love being with you two nerds. That's what I want to tell y'all. And I miss our other nerds, Sharon. I hope she's feeling better. And I hope everything's cool.
Sharon,
we got
to.
Woo!
We miss you, Sharon.
We do miss you, Sharon.
Cut me out for that.
We got the big lean in. Sorry about that. But that is true about Steel Sharpens Steel. We are a reading rainbow. A reading rainbow. Butterflies in the sky. Okay, so let's move on to our next segment. This is a segment I'd like to call Receipts!
There you go.
So this is Matt Gaetz. The saga of Matt Gaetz is turning into a Gordon Lightfoot song. I mean, it's just every time you turn around, and just so let's make sure we got all the players. Courtesy of the Daily Beast. Thank you, Sharon. We love you, Sharon. Let's get all the players together. So on our left, we have Roger tattooed with Richard Nixon on his back, Stone. On our far right, we have Greenberg, who is probably going to be played by Seth Rogen in the Amazon Prime movie. And in the middle, we have Gaetz. Now, what we know so far, what we have always known for months now, is that Gaetz would Venmo money to Greenberg. Greenberg would Venmo money to girls and women, at least one underage girl, at least one. And that would help them pay tuition, that would pay rent, car notes, whatever. Yeah. Andrea, you are spoiling things. Now stop it. So what we've ended up finding out, though, is that even though Gaetz denies he was seeking a pardon, Greenberg was definitely seeking a pardon. And Greenberg was communicating with Roger Stone about a pardon. And they were using a platform which, much like Snapchat, deletes messages. You can see them and then they're immediately deleted. Unless you take screenshots.
Got a screenshot. Hey.
Screenshot. Hey, come on. And so with the screenshots, we have Greenberg officially claiming that he and Matt Gaetz slept with a girl who was 17. She said she was older than 17, but at one point, Greenberg found out that she was, in fact, at the time of at least one of their sexual encounters, under 19, and that she was 17. And he communicated that to Gaetz, who had a moment. And in addition to all that, the Venmo stuff is put into much clearer context. Literally. Oh, going ahead and throw up Andrea's quote now from the thing. Where'd it go? Ass. Yeah. 7-layer dip of stupid. Venmo for ass. You have emojis that are hotels with hearts and all sorts of things. Real frat boy stuff.
Frat boy stuff.
Real fratty.com stuff. Which is a surprise to me considering the non-adopted male child who's been in his.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm still surprised that he likes. We're not after dark, so yeah. I was surprised, right?
I mean, bisexuality is a thing.
True.
Bisexual pedophilia. Hey, that's a new thing to try, I guess.
True.
I wouldn't, because I respect boundaries, but do you, bro?
Technically, it's ephebophilia as opposed to pedophilia. Once you are near the age of, it's ephebophilia. It's not pedophilia.
Again, y'all, SAT, bring your children. Let your children listen and get these SAT words.
That is closer to age of consent. So a teen and an elder teen, if that's what you're seeing.
Thing.
It is, yeah.
Tom.
EPHE.
Oh, I knew how to spell it.
I was doing that for the guests. Sharpies, girl. You had already pulled up the answer on your daggone phone, so I knew you knew how to spell it. But at any rate, not try anything. Lord, you are going to hell. Andrea Howard Oliver. So this is where we are with Gaetz. Of course, Gaetz, his new communications person, because we all know that one of his communications persons actually quit right after all this stuff hit the fan. But his new communications person says, Matt Gaetz has never had sex with a 17-year-old when he was over the age of 17. Okay, you just really, you're really building your Bumble profile there, bro. Appreciate you with all of the revelations. But when your boy is offering receipts that he sent to Roger Stone, he's telegraphing something to the people who are doing this investigation. In case you were confused, Matt Gaetz. Right. You'll be using that Brill cream for some other purpose. Not too long in the future, I imagine. Yeah. Because this is not boding well for you, bro. And the more you try to tie yourself to Trump, as these things come out, the more you are going to get this.
Yeah. Trump's not caping for him now. He's not caping for him now.
He's barely caping for Rudy.
Yeah. And because one thing about Trump, what's interesting here, and Tom, I have to go back to your first SAT word of the day. It's hubris. It is. At the end of the day, it's mind-boggling to me that you leave any type, if you're gonna break the law like that, if you're gonna mess around with underage children, it is mind-boggling to me that you Cash App, like you say, Venmo, you got the message in there for ass. It's just, again, that if that ain't hubris, I don't know what is. It's the whole nothing's going to happen to me. I am beyond reproach. I am Matt Gaetz. My father is Don Gaetz, who is a big time guy over there in the Panhandle, and I am a Trump sycophant, and he's going to take care of me. And again, it's going to be tight on him once those bracelets come on, because they are coming. It's a matter of time, bro.
It's like when I got my replacement Samsung new phone, hubris. See what I did there?
Right.
So this is a man whose downfall I
Relish.
there's not enough popcorn. Do you all remember the movie Real Genius with Val Kilmer? And at the end, they set the popcorn up in the man's house, and they shot the particle beam laser, and it set off all the popcorn in his house and blew it up. That's the amount of popcorn I want to consume as I watch Matt Gaetz spiral.
Yeah.
And I will not say.
And he's
Matt
nasty,
Gaetz,
man.
Oh, he's
a
nasty,
dude.
nasty.
He's a nasty dude. I mean, yeah.
You got that. Yeah, you got that super expensive popcorn too. Double good.
Mm-hmm.
All y'all people who I remember when it was just candy bars and the candy bars were $1 a piece. They charging $742 a bag for this damn popcorn. You best be giving full ass scholarships to all these damn kids.
You talking about the deltas, Tom? You talking about the deltas?
No, it's every parent. That's the new thing.
Every parent,
okay.
every nonprofit, every sorority.
And you can't get a bag of popcorn. You can't get one. You look at how much the shipping is, and you're like, well, I might as well get 3. Next thing you know, you spend $125 for 3 bags of damn pop. And it's good popcorn. I'm not saying it's not good popcorn.
On popcorn. And it's been so good. And look, it is good. Look, what you got? What flavor you got?
Yeah, it was the cheddar and the caramel for me. And I got the kettle corn, and I got
licking the inside of the bag.
I know that's right. I believe the children are our future. Pay for that future with lots and lots of double good. Because man,
everybody double good.
Everybody does.
Okay.
Everybody does it. Everybody
man.
does it. You ain't messing with my caramel. It's some good popcorn. It's good popcorn, but it's more expensive than that Chicago popcorn. Yeah, it's fisha fela salahena.
How much about Alejandro?
Iba shalvahi sakena vavasela.
Yo, Erica is trolling me. She's like, "You live by me. Bring it."
So you gonna have her spend $75 on popcorn and gas?
Yeah.
You get your MARTA card out and scroll on over to her house. Cause damn.
Mm-hmm.
So
if Gaetz had been buying popcorn instead of ass,
well,
might
be.
I'm just saying.
Who's he buying all that popcorn for?
Right? Candy in the back seat.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not after dark today, so
We are not after dark, but we are going to take things to an unfortunate place. Actually, it's not completely unfortunate. This is actually the premise for these next 2 segments, or it's kind of a combined segment, is a sad thing, but the justice that is rolling off the back of these tools is a joy to see. And the first one is this heifer her. And that expression is excellent. That is the woman who murdered Botham Jean in his own apartment. And
Amber Geiger.
Well, I wasn't going to say her name, but yes.
Radioactive. Amber
That's
Geiger.
right. Geiger counter. And she's going to be counting many more years in prison because her attorney tried it. Oh my God, he tried it. And the Jean family went and hugged her after the thing and tried to show a measure of Christian grace, which I could not muster out of a toenail clipping
at all
for that woman.
Yo,
go ahead.
I'm about to have another Sharon. I'm channeling my inner Sharon.
Go ahead. You're not close enough to the camera.
This is why you don't be hugging hoes and forgiving them. Because they forget where they came from and they get new on you all over again. And then these motherfuckers want to be asking for pardons. No, that's some bullshit.
One time for Sharon, let me hit.
I know that's right. I'm going to sprinkle some water on you to exercise her spirit. But this is what her lawyer said. Her lawyer wasn't just trying to get a reduced sentence. Her lawyer was trying to get the conviction overturned. Overturned. And had the audacity to try to bring in specious legal arguments, so much so that the justices were like, hey, let me stop you for a second. Are you trying to say that, I mean, didn't your client say on the stand that she shot and killed Botham Jean? So that's not even a question. Now you're trying to say there was you're trying
No
to
crime.
conflate justification and justified and also say it was only unintentional manslaughter and da. You don't get to bite all them apples. You got one bite at the apple, and we just toss that apple at the window. Bye. Not only is she going to serve the rest of her sentence, you came in here with some foolishness, and this is what Amber was looking like.
Yeah, yeah. And Tom, y'all, I'm still mad, and I'm laughing at the comments from the Sharpies. I'm still mad at all of the post-sentence shenanigans. I mean, it's one thing for the family to say they forgive, and and far be it for me to judge the brother who hugged her. That makes him rest better at night than God bless you, bro. Because hey, we get it, we feel you. But there's been some debate as to whether the sister that was the bailiff was checking her hair for weapons. I have watched a lot of those pat downs. That wasn't a weapons check pat down. That was some, I don't know.
Let me pick you up.
Yeah, let me help you out. And the judge coming down and hugging and giving a Bible. That bothered the heck out of me. I was like, I mean, I'm all about compassion where it's due and all of that. But I'm about to get angry, and now I'm about to start cussing because, again, you just don't see that on any regular basis. You don't see judges coming down and hugging murderers and talking about scripture and all that type of stuff. It's like, hey,
You have never seen a judge of any color
right,
come down and hug a Black person that has been sentenced to any crime.
Ever.
I can tell you right now, I would have been channeling my inner Sam Jackson.
Yes,
they deserve to die, and I hope she burns in hell.
Yeah.
That would have been. I mean, stop it. Stop it, Amber. And then you had the nerve after you sat there. You had the nerve to try to save your life when Botham John can't draw another breath. You unbelievable gutter snipe, trash ass, dirty dishwater blonde former police officer heffaho.
Yeah.
I've never heard heffaho before. I'm gonna have to use that. That's pretty awesome.
That's a pretty good one. Yeah.
That's no. And you know what? Back, you hussy. Back to the depths of hell from which you were spawned.
Rebuke you, demon. Go on.
I bind you in the name of Jesus. And you go right back to the unaired 7th season of Orange is the New Black with your tacky ass. With your shady shenanigans.
Absolutely.
And speaking of shady shenanigans,
yes,
these 3 jackdaws got a rude awakening. All 3 of them. And father, son, and
recorder.
Yeah. All 3 of y'all. And I know recorder is like, well, damn. I tried to flip the script. I thought I was going to get some help. No, bruh. And I'll tell you this, though. I'm Captain Podcast. I don't play any radio in my car. That's why when people come out with new songs and stuff, they talk about, have you heard that little Kalashnikov vert, whatever? I have not, because I don't listen to that. And my children, out of respect for me, put their headphones on if they want to listen to that foolishness. I have listened to a podcast called Unbreakable. Now, this is the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Or, no, it's not Unbreakable. I'll have to get it for you. I'll put it into the chat. It's from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and they have been tracking big cases that occur in their footprint. So there was a guy who left his child in the car, and the child suffocated and died of heat stroke. That was a huge. They've had like 8. This is their 8th or 9th big thing that they're covering. Sometimes it's Black, sometimes it's not. But Ahmaud Arbery is obviously the biggest case in Georgia right now.
Yeah.
And so because of COVID, it hasn't been consistent. Sometimes they'd have to take like a 2-3 month break before they could do anything. But in the last episode that they broadcast, they had a lot of audio from the defendant's counsel. And I got to tell you, those dudes are worth every penny. Because if you were to just listen to them and turn off your brain and not consider any other evidence, they really make it sound like these guys were justified. And what the issue right now is that they're trying to get the information about Ahmaud's previous interactions with police as a part of the record, even though the McMichaels didn't have any of that information, and therefore it could not have informed their decision. They weren't cops.
Right.
So it couldn't have informed their decision making as it pertains to him, but they're trying to get that in, of course, just to assassinate the character of Ahmaud Arbery and mental illness. And they're sitting there, we really feel that his mental illness and his dissociative disorder made him act in an irrational way, which unfortunately gave the people no choice but to defend themselves. They make it sound so smooth and creamy and easy and rational, except it's a lie.
Yeah.
And what is not happening at the federal level is that your BS is not running uphill, which is why federal charges have been filed against you.
Yeah. And that one on the left, he was like he's half a retard.
He looks like that is not a word. That is not.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What's the politically correct word?
It's not even politically correct.
There's no politically correct word, but
human.
Well, okay. I'm sorry.
He
I'm sorry for my troglodyte moment, y'all.
Yes, he looks intellectually challenged, but I think the most accurate statement is that he looks like a hairy thumb with alopecia. But he is a person who has served his country. Mouth breather. Mouth breather's good. Mouth breather is fair. I'll take mouth breather for 600, Alex. Actually, it's LeVar. I'll take mouth breather for 600. LeVar.
Yes, LeVar. I'm looking forward to that.
Claim that. Claim it. And I apologize, Dr. Goodwin. We have our resident psychiatrist who's here. I'm sorry. Yeah, I apologize. That was beneath me. I won't say that anymore.
I will go back to the old HBCU standby afflicted.
Or Tom, the country southern one. What about touched?
Touched.
That boy a little touched.
Touched and afflicted. But look, this is what you get.
This looks like generational
it does. I mean, this is what you get when you think you... And, the other thing that came out, they have actual tape and recordings of Papa, who was trying to, make good with the cops in the immediate aftermath. And one of the requirements for the citizen's arrest statute is that you have to have witnessed the crime in progress.
Okay.
Or have... which would give you a reasonable suspicion that a crime had occurred. Okay. And he is on tape saying, well, I didn't see him take anything.
Yeah.
But then he tried to get into all this other stuff of a gun had been stolen out of his car. And so he was piecing a whole lot of things together. His justification was a gun had been stolen out of his car. He suspected that this black guy was stealing out of the house, even though he was never on camera ever taking anything out of the house.
An empty house.
An empty house. And they're saying you can still burgle an empty house. Now, they haven't tried to bring up charges against the white couple that is on camera walking through the house. Interestingly. They haven't tried to bring up trespassing or anything else. I don't know if you can burgle a house that is still not complete with 4 walls. I especially if you don't take anything. But the lawyer was trying to say, if the intent to burgle is there, that's chargeable as burglary. Well, you can't charge him with anything now because your clients killed him.
Right.
And if I was going to burgle a house, I'd bring a bag or a suitcase or something.
Yeah.
No, what you bring is short shorts.
Yeah,
that's what you'd bring. White short shorts. So that you could get all that copper wiring in the pocket of your cargo shorts.
Exactly.
The 27 cents worth of copper wiring you get into the pocket of your cargo
He was jogging. He had nothing with him but his his earbuds and, you know, a desire to be healthy.
Yeah.
That's what they killed him for.
Yeah.
And the 911 call, the 911 operator is like, what has he done? What crime has he committed? The 911 operator, I commend for trying to speak reason to these people. What crime has he committed? What has he done? He's in my neighborhood. That's what he did. So what you're saying is you feel justified to kill him because you don't like him being where you can see him.
Right.
That's kind of stuff that you know what?
And that's where we are in this country.
Yeah.
That's where we are in this country. But on the heels of the Chauvin verdict, we're getting a little pieces of incremental justice. And it's like what you said, Joy. Mm-hmm. Black people are being seen as human, not on equal footing with cops, but also not imminently murderable by lynch parties of one.
Yeah.
Those days at least appear to be behind us. And, you know, James Byrd should have taught you something. That was 2 decades ago.
This is true.
Wow. I did not know that.
Me either.
Wow, that's sad. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's sad all the way around, but
right.
Again, you're thinking of a young man who wasn't able to do much of anything, you know, and he's so young and killed over some foolishness, you know. I hope that they never walk out of a prison again. That 3. And I think they're well on their way.
In Gen Pop with all the people that they're afraid of.
Yeah.
I hope the booty master from Boondocks. What's the guy? I like you.
Oh,
I want you. Now we can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way. I hope he finds them on day 1.
Yeah.
Toss salad, man.
And if anybody ever finds this recording 10 years from now and says I said something terrible, you goddamn right I did. And I'll say it again.
All right, Joy.
I stand by this.
Yeah.
Well, speaking about people who are finally finding out what the word justice means, Joy, you put a graphic in here about Derek. You want to pull that up?
Yes. Where is it? Right here.
Derek Chauvin gets more time.
Doo-dah, doo-dah. But
that was a Britney Spears thing. That was not a
hit me baby one more time. I'm sorry. I've had a lot of wine.
Yes.
So I went with what I know. The reference I know is Old McDonald.
Derek Chauvin got more time to do that.
Exactly.
That's Camptown Racists, not Old McDonald.
Shut up.
But
anyway, so think about this. Here's why I wanted to bring this up. A lot of people were like, you know, when they consider the sentencing, this is his first offense. He's never done anything like this before. And I kept telling people, you don't do what he did to George Floyd your first time. You have done this before and been successful with getting away with it.
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times. This is how you roll. This was the time that you went too far and got caught, which means you had to have pushed the boundaries multiple times before to get to this point. This picture right here, this is the only time other than George Floyd that we know about. I promise you he's been doing that shit for years.
But you know, the thing that trips me out is when you talk about Derek Chauvin, when you talk about Larry Curley and Mo from the Ahmaud Arbery case, I would, you know, love to talk to these folks just to ask them, what were you thinking? Like, you know, we'll never get the explanations because they won't take the stand. Derek Chauvin did not take the stand. Those 3 will not take the stand. And Tom, I applaud you for, you know, listening to the podcast and what have you, and listening to their lawyers spin BS. Their lawyers won't put them on the witness stand. But I am curious as to the mind of the racist. Intrigues me. Like I really want to like just sit across and like help me to understand what was going on in your mind when you saw a young man with headphones jogging to think to chase him and to shoot him. Or I'd like to ask Derek Chauvin, what was going through your mind when you had George Floyd subdued, handcuffed? You could have easily picked him up, and even if he didn't want to sit in the cruiser because it was claustrophobia, then get one of those SUVs or call the van to come and get him and what have you, but you don't just sit there with your knee on his neck for damn near 10 minutes. I would love to know what was going through their minds. I mean, we probably never will, but it's just curious.
I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you what was going through their minds. So to understand how they were thinking at the time, you have to understand the psychology of a bully. They already have something in their minds that they have some inner sense of a lack of self-worth, some inefficiency, some fragility around their own identity. They got their own internal issues, and it's something outside their control. Now, you couple that with where we are from a socioeconomic standpoint. We have the 1% taking all the money and everybody else fighting over crumbs. A whole lot of people feel like their lives are out of control. And when people feel out of control, they try to exert control where they can. And so for Derek Chauvin, I can't control everything else in my life. You know, I don't have enough money. I got problems coming out the wazoo, whatever. But I can do this right here, and I can show everybody I'm a big bad man. I'm an alpha dog in this moment. And that's how he was feeling. I'm going to show you how I roll because this is all I can control. Same thing with the guys that shot Ahmaud Arbery. My life is out of control. I can't do anything. I can't take care of my family. I don't know if I'm gonna have a job. COVID is happening, et cetera, but I can do this. Now, what they're doing is wrong. And we know it's wrong, but they don't see it as wrong, because to see it as wrong, you have to see the person that you're aggressing against as human. And they don't. For them, it was like kicking a dog. It was like cutting
they wouldn't kick they wouldn't kick a dog, though.
That too. But the problem is because they lack self-esteem, the only way they can feel better about themselves is to subjugate someone else, and black men make an easy and convenient target. So I'm going to abuse this black man to make myself feel better. And oh shit, it went too far. And now I might be going to jail. I don't feel like I should go to jail because I feel like I was justified in trying to prove my own self-worth. And all of that doesn't even register with them on a conscious level. But subconsciously, this is what's going on. I hate myself. And so I'm going to kill you because my life isn't how I want it to be. Mm-hmm. That's what they're thinking.
Wow.
I put the link to the podcast on all of our pages. The podcast was called Breakdown, and this is a link to the specific episode. To your point, Chuck, about them not testifying, fortunately, we have their comments in the immediate aftermath of Arbery's murder, where they are talking on the record with police officers. Testimony that is recorded on body cam, testimony that has been offered as a part of the reporting process. And so you need only call those officers to verify what has been said. That's not hearsay. Mm-hmm. We have a transcript of the comments of this witness. Did he or did he not say this to you? Mm. And so because he thought he was shielded, oh, I'm an investigator. Oh, I know the DA. I used to work for the DA and da 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 da. Now and then she had to recuse herself after holding off on filing charges with her White Walker ass complexion. This is a situation where Joy nailed it. She absolutely nailed it. I don't have to justify anything because I'm in my neighborhood and he should not have been there. And I know that he was up to something. And so I got in my truck. I didn't get in my truck and run him down, even though he was on foot with loaded guns. I didn't do that to kill him. I just wanted to talk. And I have a right to talk to whoever I want to talk to, and they have to tell me what I want to hear because statute. By the way, they have cut that statute from the Georgia law books now.
Good.
You know what, Tom? It's too late, but it's gone. So all of the rest of y'all who thought you were about to hop in your little pickups with your Confederate flags and all that, you best keep it in the garage.
But you know what, y'all? The part that trips me out, though, because I sometimes play these what-if scenarios, you know, in terms of, I saw Stacey earlier make a comment about Trayvon. You know, I think sometimes when I'm sitting up just bored and the brain won't shut off, you know, I'm thinking, what if Trayvon had gone down this street instead of that street where he runs into George Zimmerman? Or what if Ahmaud had stopped? You know, with Ahmaud, I've thought to myself, had he stopped, I think he still would have been killed
Of
because
course.
there was no explanation that he was going to be able to give that was going to satisfy those three individuals that we had up on the screen. And so, again, it's one of those things where I continue to struggle. As you know, I know we're going to go into one of the last segments with Tim Scott. You know, I keep struggling with the idea of what makes whites in America, and not all whites. I hate that I have to even do the not all, but not all whites. We know we have some good white allies out here. We have some good white Sharpies. So not talking about y'all, but I'm talking about the degenerate whites who think that they are endowed with some type of, I don't know, special blessing to be able to force other people to explain themselves. Like, and I think that sometimes when I'm out walking in my neighborhood, I'm like, boy, Lord, please don't let somebody walk up on me with this bullshit, because I'm not passive like that. It's not going to end well. And I'm not boasting when I say it. It's like, even pushing 50, I'm still of the same mindset of when I was 22, 23, and I'll bomb on somebody or blast, depending on what the situation calls. And so I just don't know. It again boggles the mind in terms of what makes them think that they can stop somebody and question. Or the latest thing this week, did y'all see where I posted or not? I posted, we all posted about hey, you should stop and ask people, why do they have masks on, or why do they have masks on their kids? Like, that's not going to end well if you bother me with that. And I'm with you. Get where I'm coming from?
Listen, Tucker Carlson and this dude is one rant away from the booby hatch. He is tripping, screaming and howling and cutting people off and
I'm gonna tell you something right now. People out in these streets, don't let Tucker Carlson get your ass
kicked.
Okay,
please
try that shit. See what happens.
Please do not, because Chuck, you were talking about it. It's the serenity of the situation. It is the serenity.
The serenity.
It is the let me see your manager.
Right. Mm-hmm. The serenity. Oh, I want that in the Urban Dictionary right now.
Yeah,
and that's what it comes down to. The entitlement, and it's just, you'll see it. I'm telling people, please listen to the Improvement Association podcast, please. Episode 2, and I think episode 3 has serenity on full display. These are people who had a narrative in their heads and can't be shaken from it. And when Zoe Chase, also a white woman, says, well, you told me this, and so I went to investigate it. And I found out that what you told me was wrong. You said that nobody followed up on it. There was a full report created. And I would just like for you to show me some more evidence, because you say you have this evidence, and I really chased it down. I just don't feel like I need to show it right now. I just know it's true. Mm-hmm. And that's all I'm about to say on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is why, to your point, when he was stopped, if he had stopped, that father had figured in his head, this is the guy who stole my gun. He's got the gun in his pocket. He's been in my neighborhood walking through houses at least twice, and he does not belong here. And so it's done. It's a wrap.
No. I'm going to tell you what he was thinking. You're giving him too much credit. Okay. He thought to himself, I'm sick of these black people coming around here acting like they better than me. I'm sick of seeing them in my neighborhood. They shouldn't even be able to afford to be in a place like this. You know what? I'm going to go give this guy hell, because I don't like him trying to be where I'm at, trying to achieve what I have achieved. And then after the fact, he probably stole my gun. That was an excuse after the fact. He killed him because he didn't like black people achieving.
Well, I'll take that. I'll take that. Whatever the reason was.
That's why they burned Rosewood.
Right. Yeah. It shouldn't have. Well, and Tulsa.
And Tulsa.
It should not have happened. End of sentence. Full stop. So whatever rationale he put in his fevered brain was never going to be legitimate anyway. But now, at least, you're facing extra charges. So enjoy.
And to wrap this piece up, if you have not seen the Oscar-winning short action film Between Two Strangers, Two Distant Strangers.
That's the one I was talking about last week, y'all.
Yeah. Two Distant Strangers is out on Netflix right now. It's a great 32-minute movie. It's moving and it's amazing, and it helps to explain the things that we're talking about right now.
What's the name of it again, Joy?
Two Distant Strangers.
Okay.
And don't go into it. It's more allegorical than anything. It does, like I said, it's Groundhog Day meets I don't know, Emmett Till.
Groundhog Day meets like Fruitvale Station. Like,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no explanation of what is going on.
We're not going to tell you nothing else about it because Tom be spoiling shit. We're not going to tell nothing else
I said what I said last show, but it is worth watching, and it did win the Oscar. So go on ahead and bump those mentions and bump those indices on Netflix's algorithm so that more people get served that content.
It's a beautiful and
it's worth watching
short film. Yeah, it's great.
It is worth watching, and so go on ahead and watch it because we said so.
Yeah.
That was our pop culture segment, by the way. All right. Moving into the final lap. This is all about Joe Biden, which really isn't as much about Joe Biden as it is about the response from Tim Scott. Joe Biden laid out his thing. He got his big stimulus package. We got it through reconciliation. Great. He's got his jobs thing, which is on deck, which to me is also an amazing offer. We're quibbling over the definition of infrastructure. And somebody said the quiet part out loud. When you were trying to recover in an economy, child care and elder care is infrastructure.
Yeah.
Because you've had people who have been unemployed, haven't had jobs to look for. Their kids have been at home during school, doing schooling. They don't have any other options. And if you were a person who became a caregiver for an ailing parent or a spouse or whatever during this period of time, that support is necessary to get people back on their feet. And you guys talking about roads and roads and roads and roads. You didn't put a single pebble in Interstate 1 in the last 4 years because he was sweating about a damn wall that didn't even get built. You put up some additional fencing, replacement fencing, on 200 miles of that long-ass border. You didn't do a damn thing, and you didn't pass infrastructure. You were too busy giving $2 trillion in tax cuts to want to do spending on actual infrastructure. And now they trotted out this senator chick talking about, well, this is a real infrastructure bill. This is a starting point. We don't have any. 2 pages. 2 pages, girl.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a bill. At least the bill in the Schoolhouse Rock had a pretty ribbon. You ain't have nothing. You had 583 billion written on a piece of paper with nah. That was your proposal because you don't want it to be 2 trillion. Nobody cares how much money the United States spends. Do you understand that? Because we're the United States.
Right.
No one cares.
People
need the money. We have money to boin. We have money to boin. And they, Rashida Tlaib wants you to print up one of them $2 trillion coins like the Mint says you can do. Go on ahead and print up 2. Print up $2 trillion coins and be done with it. And so, call that a Bitcoin. That's a bit of a coin.
Ha.
So going ahead and print it up in platinum. I will give you some platinum. I will buy the platinum for you to mint the coin if that's what it's going to take. Just go on ahead and mint it. The point is, we need this money. We are not Greece. We are not Italy. We are the United States of America. You want to make America great again? Spend the damn money and take it from the corporations who have been living high on the hog. Do you know how much Jeff Bezos's net worth increased during this whole thing?
He's worth more than most third world countries combined.
Jeff Bezos is not hurting. He's so wealthy, he gave $60 billion to his ex. and made more than that. Made more than that during the pandemic.
Right.
And ain't hardly paying no damn corporate tax.
None.
And the corporate tax rate that Donald slashed things to wasn't even nobody asking for all that. And Biden's not even talking about pushing it all the way back to what it was.
Mm-hmm.
He's still giving y'all a break. And these the Koch brother, sorry your brother died. Sorry, not sorry. The Koch brother may care, but it's not like he could spend the money he's saving.
Yeah.
Go on ahead and pay what you owe, pay what you are due, and give the United States citizens who need it, give them the damn money.
But what, y'all, from a philosophical standpoint, the thing that, again, continues to, vex me in some of, and makes me think a lot when I'm sitting up, like I say, in my room thinking, how or why are people still caping for the wealthy like that, and I have opined a long time ago, and Joy, it's gonna be interesting to see what you say about this, that it's really the mindset that trickled down amongst whites, and then obviously blacks have picked up the mindset too, post-slavery, that's from the serf system with the manorial lords, where people jot wealth. It's when you see people sitting up, the tax cut, they're gonna tax and spend, those tax and spend liberals, and I'm like, dude, a lot of these programs are going to help you. Just like some of the jokes we see in the memes. If you're putting that $7 pack of chicken back because the $6 pack is going to save you 30 or 40 cents, you don't need to worry about the corporate tax rate. That's not your wheelhouse, okay?
Nope.
And so I just don't get it. It's as if the middle, lower classes will cape harder for the rich than they will for their own self-interest. And many times, not everybody. I mean, here we are, middle-class folks that are like, hey, I don't give a damn. Tom just broke it down, like how much money Bezos has. And I'm like, I don't care if he gets taxed even higher because it doesn't impact me at all. You get where I'm coming from? I want to be able to live better even within my own bracket. So, I don't get it, though. But it's a lot of people who are out here, especially down here in the South. It's a whole lot of poor folks who are, tax and spend liberals, and they're gonna raise the taxes. And I'm like, not on you, on some other people, but you're gonna be all right, So why are you worried about it?
Why?
Mm-hmm.
So once again, got something for you. And yes, a lot of money is pumped into getting people to vote against their own best interests. So one of the quotes I like to use in a lot of the classes that I teach is from Lyndon B. Johnson. If you can convince the lowest white man that he is better than the highest black man, he won't notice that you're picking his pockets. Hell, give him somebody to look down on and he'll empty his pockets for you. This was the United States president that said this while he was in office, understanding how the masses can be convinced to do something against their own best interest if they believe that doing so will disenfranchise somebody they consider less than them.
Right. Amen.
Now, here's another thing that you may not know. During the Reagan era, Reagan was a devil. During the Reagan era, the face of social programs changed from white people to black people. Before that, from the New Deal of FDR in the 1930s, early 1940s, the New Deal, that era went all the way up to 1978, 1980, when all of a sudden, before that, during that time frame, social programs gained a lot of support. They didn't at first. People didn't want to be socialists. They associated with communism, et cetera. But when they realized they had Social Security, they had a lot of benefits. There was, like some universal safety net. Medicare. They were all for it. But in the 80s, the Republican Party decided that they could change the national sentiment around social programs by putting it in the body of Black people. And so they started doing more and more commercials, pamphlets, advertisements, et cetera, saying, please support welfare with the picture of a little Black child on it. And all of a sudden, don't nobody want to pay for that no more. because it was all good when they thought that this money was going to help disenfranchised or poor white families. But when they began to believe that all this money was going to black families, and then you couple that with Reagan talking about the welfare queens, which actually the real welfare queen was a white woman in New York who scammed the system. That's the one he's talking about, but he never gives her race. He just talks about it and lets the prevalent idea of black women rule the day. And so when they started putting a black face on social programs, all of a sudden the closeted racist in the country decided, I don't want to pay for that. So that's why you hear, even to this day, I don't want my tax dollars going for these people who don't want to work. They're talking black people. Even though more white people are on welfare than black, even though more white people need WIC and social services than black, the fact and the idea that they think black people are getting some of it means they don't want to support it at all. It's the same thing that they did. Sharon, it's the same thing that they did when COVID started to gain a foothold in this country, and all of a sudden they realized black people were dying at a higher rate. All of a sudden they didn't give a damn about COVID. Fuck them. Right? And so we do the same thing over and over again. All of a sudden, even though something is good for everybody, vaccinations are good for everybody, debt forgiveness is good for everybody, farm subsidies are good for everybody. But when they think that even a little bit of it is going to black people, no, we don't want to do that because they are not worth it. And it's that idea that allows them or forces them even to vote against their own self-interest.
Damn shame.
This was the face of welfare. From the Depression through the time period that Joy was talking about. You all have seen this picture. You've seen this woman. This is Dust Bowl poverty.
Yup.
This was the face of welfare in the United States. This is what it was. Until Reagan started talking about a supposed black woman with Cadillacs.
Yeah.
This is what welfare was. And when this was the face of welfare, it wasn't an issue. It simply wasn't an issue because it was them who was getting the benefit. It was them. And when you could otherize black people and you everything from Good Times to everything else. I mean, let's be clear. Good Times was not a Good Time show.
Right.
Hanging in a chow line. Good times. That's not Good Times. Scratching and Surviving?
Right.
So we talk about
Temporary
bed bugs.
layoffs?
Yeah. Easy credit rip-offs. No, those are not Good Times. Ain't we lucky we got them? Don't. Yeah, no, we're not lucky at all.
Not at all.
It's horrible. Here's a news flash. Guess what was not promoted on Fox News this week?
Wow.
Up to $75,000. You made $75,000 or less. You may owe nothing in income tax. And a lot of you people trying to find money to buy toothpaste to brush that one tooth aren't making anywhere near $75,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're probably not going to pay anything. Plus, you got those fat stimmy checks from Biden. You got them little half-ass checks from Trump, but Biden turned on the spigot. You talk about trickle down? Biden opened the Hoover Dam for your ass. And you're not going to have to pay taxes. That's where we are. But that's not something they're saying. You're talking about, oh, billionaires are going to be paying more. What about you, bro? $75,000 is more than the median income in this country. That means half the country won't pay income tax.
Yeah.
Half. And this is Romney and the 47, the 57%, that whole thing. That is major. Do you not understand and appreciate what is being done for you on behalf of you and at the cost of people who won't even feel it? It's not the salary of a deckhand for their fourth ship.
You know, I want to touch on
it.
Stop it. But I want to touch on Carla's comment here about we've had enough Democrats in power to rewrite the welfare script, and it has not been done because they believe it too. And this is the issue so I am speaking for myself, and I am talking about my opinion at this point. But I will say that when you look at white Democrats and white Republicans, white supremacy runs through all of it. How they act upon it is different. So you have white supremacy with the Republicans, where they see us as subhuman. They see us as not worthy. They don't want to do anything for us, have anything to do with us. They wish we'd all just disappear and go away. And then you have white Democrats who see us as a burden to be carried, and a subset group that needs to be rescued, and they need to do us a favor because we are incapable of faring and taking care of ourselves. And that's the white savior complex that you see in the progressives. And they don't understand it. They don't get that they're still seeing us as unworthy, just worthy of charity, but not worthy of respect. You know, and the Republican Party is like not worthy of anything. We wish we'd have sent you all back to Africa a long time ago. But wait, finish this house first. And then you can go back to Africa because we hate you. But I mean, that's the difference ultimately, which is why at this point, when we're here in this election in 2020, it wasn't that we love the Democrats. They were literally the lesser of two evils at the moment. You watch Black women. Black women vote the safest outcome.
Yeah.
And think about, some white people may vote their wallets, some vote their morals, some vote their, social opinion. Black women vote safety. What's the best chance that I and my family have of surviving? That's what I'm voting for. And that's how Biden got that Black women vote.
And Joy, I'm glad you brought that up, because there's a lot of times where, you'll see people, particularly on social media, try to pretend as if Blacks are monolithic in regards to not just politics, but in regards to supporting the Democratic Party. And something that you just said is something that I hit on a little bit in my blog today. I know we're going to talk about it here in a minute, which in regards to America's racism, there are a lot of white Democrats, a lot of whites who will call themselves allies straight up. I mean, they like, Chuck, I love observation point. I love still, sharp, and still. I'm an ally. And, they really, generally speaking, are, but they will diverge. Like you say, the two roads in the yellow wood. I think one of y'all was speaking on that earlier in the show too. They will diverge and go to the other road when one of us say, yeah, but America's a racist country. They'll look at you like, well, wait a minute, Chuck, that's unfair. I mean, my ancestors fought for the Union, and we freed the slaves. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And a lot of times I just don't have the time or the patience or the crayons to actually explain it well to some, just to be honest with you. But again, if you can't just start with the objective facts that since 1619, when it was the colonies, on through to 1787 at the Constitutional Convention forward, that America was and has been and remains a racist country, there really isn't much that we can talk about. And us saying that doesn't mean we hate America, or, because hell, that's like being on a ship and wanting the ship to go down out there in the middle of the Atlantic. I want America to prosper. I just want the racism to stop. I want the bullshit to stop. And so there are a lot of our white allies who don't want to hear that. They want to America the beautiful, home of the brave, or whatever the other lyrics are and shit. And it's like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to start with the objective fact that this country is racist. And then what is it that you can do as a white person, since you are an ally, to stop it? What are y'all talking about in your churches? What are you talking about in your Kiwanis and your Lions groups and your
Thanksgiving
groups? Huh?
What are you talking about at Thanksgiving? At
Thanksgiving, right? Like, what are you going to do to stop it? That's what we need to get, because the country is racist. Period.
Are we gonna turn on to Senator Scott now?
Y'all. There he is.
Okay, so man, would
even
you
the
all,
teeth is the same?
Would you all? I mean, man,
look at this.
My goodness.
Marinate on that.
Diba. Would you all indulge me and let me read my open letter to Monsieur Scott?
Please do. Enlighten.
So I put this on my page because I was engaging in some dialogue with a fraternity brother on his page. And I felt that it needed to be shared with my people because I know that everybody would not see it on his page. And then a colleague from Honda Campus All Star Challenge asked me if I had tagged Tim Scott in it. And so I posted this message on Tim Scott's page. So here it is, an open message to Tim Scott. George Floyd was murdered because an officer acted with impunity. Impunity predicated on his belief that there would be no consequences because of his skin color as compared to the skin color of his victim. The Somali officer who shot a white tourist woman in that same state was convicted with little fanfare. No blue line there. No Blue Lives Matter. Chauvin acted as he did because the system has demonstrated time and time again that there would be no consequences. That system has its roots in white supremacy, the same supremacy that informed your misty-eyed recollections of your own unjust treatment.
Mm-hmm.
This is not tough. For you and Graham to aver that institutional racism doesn't exist is counterfactual. That there are more voters in this country who can see past race to elect Obama and Harris doesn't mean that the institutional structures are not rooted in racism. Why do Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, and those Dakotas get to create an almost impenetrable wall of the filibuster when they represent barely 2% of the population? Why 2 Dakotas and no DC? Tom Cotton said the quiet part out loud this week. And that's before we get to the framers' 3/5 concessions on melanated people. That it took a Voting Rights Act in the 1960s to enforce the rights of black voters established 100 years earlier is prima facie evidence of institutional racism. To pretend that the vestiges of that legacy have dissolved while A, Kemp's antics in Georgia tipped the election to him, B, the rejection of the extension of VRA protections, and C, the myriad of anti-voter legislation put forth by GOP state majorities this year is nothing more than willful blindness. With your buck-toothed ass. Tim Scott, you do not get to cry about being pulled over by the cops. You do not get to talk about not having your Senate badge recognized by a white Senate officer as you tried to walk into your own place of employment. Put there on the backs of voters who supported you after your interim appointment. I was one, I will claim it. I was not one of the people who thought Tim Scott would be reelected. He was reelected. Fine. He's had some moments, some brief shimmering moments of recognition of the state of this country. But in his desire to placate white angst and agita about being called racist because living in a racist country means I'm bad. You're just calling me a bad person, whatever. Yes, I am, actually. But it's not all of you. And as I noted, there are people in this country, white, Asian, whatever, who are able to look past race and do the human thing and do the right thing and act in their, not only in their own interests, because that's something that we do a lot in this country, thinking about only our own interests as opposed to the interests of everyone else who shares our citizenhood, but who can look past. That does not mean that the institutional structures have been looked past. And when you have a very small group of people who benefit the most from those institutional structures, controlling the rest, you're still in a racist country.
Yeah.
And Lil Lindsay, you need to sit all the way down. All the way down.
Sit all the way down.
Sit on your fainting couch. Grab an Irish lace doily and dip it in some mineral water cooled by ice and sit your ass down. What the hell would you know about racism anyway, Lindsay? Has anybody ever pressed you for the color of your skin ever in life? Mm-hmm. And you are old. You my mama's age. So you grew up in a time where people were behaving abhorrently in regards to race. I have said on this show, my mother's home was bombed by racists who were trying to foil the efforts of my grandfather to enfranchise black voters in Texas. My mother, not my great 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 grandmother who was a slave, or who was an enslaved person, not my family members who were recorded in the Texas slave narratives as they have come to be called. Not those people generations removed in the past, in the history, in the midst of time. My mother. If that bomb had been placed in a different part of the house, I would not be here to raise my own blood pressure. My mother. So a country that benefits from racist institutions is a racist country. That's like a dictionary, open one. That doesn't mean everybody in the country is racist, but it does mean that the country was built on the back of racism, is still predicated on the notion of racism, and when state-sponsored actors like police kill black people with impunity, and that impunity is informed by the dehumanization of black people, it is a racist country.
Amen.
Amen.
Assholes.
Amen.
You know what Tim Scott sounds to me? He sounds like Rick James. Now what I look like, putting my feet on somebody's couch. Well, like that's just something to do. Yeah, I put my feet on somebody's couch, because we can get another one. Because, cocaine is a hell of a drug. The only way he would change it is to say instant money and fame is a hell of a drug. That's what he's done. There's no racism in this country. I mean, I was a victim of racism, but it's not a racist country. And you know what? I got a video I want to show you. We've shown it before, but I'm going to show it again because I want to remind you all of how certain things go. So let me see if I can find this video for you real quick. Hang on a second.
It's at the bottom.
There it is.
She is a celebrated professor and author whose latest endeavour explores the lasting legacies of British racism and colonialism. I'm very much looking forward to interrupting you. So you are black. What on earth is that like? Does it hurt? It's not that bad here though, right? How many racisms have you seen? Again, you avoid an answer. How dark is the baby going to be? How can there still be racism? You're a successful author. You're on television. If a person like me has to listen to a person like you, is that not progress? I just feel like there's oops racism, and then there's racism, and you keep flattening the two. Your experience of them as a black person is that they're the same, but I know when I mean oops, and I know when I mean She.
So the reason I wanted to put that up is because if you listen to what he says, I know when I mean oops, and I know when I mean as so many people that came out after the Meghan Markle interview with Oprah, and it was speaking to the Black British experience, where so many Black Brits will say there's racism, and polite British people will be like, well, how many racisms have you seen? If you remember, Sharon Osbourne said that same bullshit when she got called out on The View. Show me racism. How many racist things have you seen? It's too many to count. How many hairs on my head, ho? So I'm sorry, did that come out? Anyway.
Hose man. Hose man.
Oh man, I'm gonna play that in the second video. It's my favorite. But so here's the thing. So many white people and Black people and Asians and Latina, etc., think that racism is and they think that unless you're saying the N-word, unless you are actively putting on a Klan outfit
or shooting someone in the face.
And shooting someone in the face, which we did see torches in Charlottesville a few years ago. So please miss me with that bullshit, because that actually happened. But unless you see that, it's not racism. So me denying you a loan, me saying that I don't want you in my neighborhood, me just saying that I don't think you're ready for this promotion, me saying I don't believe you're a real doctor, all of that is not racism. That's just, my maybe skepticism or whatever. It's oops racism. And they only acknowledge the racism. But here's the thing. You don't get to the violence unless you allow the oopsies.
Oops.
Right. When you have people that constantly remind you through imagery, through propaganda, through Fox News that Black people are inferior, then you don't get people killing us as if we are inhuman. That's how you get there. So if we can get rid of the oops, we don't get the and that's what they don't understand.
And Joy, to your point, you gave the brilliant quote from LBJ. I want to finish out with the evilly brilliant quote from the late Lee Atwater, the longtime Republican strategist who helped elect Reagan, I think George Herbert Walker Bush, and the like. And he's talking about code switching among races, just what you were just talking about, Joy, where people think you've got to say the N-word to be a racist, and you don't. What Lee Atwater said in an interview in 1981, quote, "You start out in 1954 by saying nigger, nigger, nigger. By 1968, you can't say nigger. That hurts you, backfires. So you say stuff like forced busing, states' rights, and all that stuff, and you're getting so abstract. Now you're talking about cutting taxes, and all these things you're talking about are totally economic things, and a byproduct of them is blacks get hurt worse than whites. Quote, we want to cut this is much more abstract than even the busing thing, and a hell of a lot more abstract than nigger, nigger." That's what it comes down to. You don't have to use negative words to still see the vestiges of Jim Crow in our current modern day system on a day-to-day basis. And so, yeah, we've got to get past that. And I'm speaking to our allies now. I know we won't be able to have much impact on the Trumpians who are going to believe what they're going to believe. But we need white allies to understand, hey, y'all need to go back to the dinner table, Thanksgiving, churches, Kiwanis, Lions, whatever other clubs that you're in. And these are the things you need to talk about, which is, wow, this is real racism here, not just the N-word or something to that effect.
You know, and the thing that I think I found most galling about Tim Scott is that it's not like Tim Scott grew up in privilege. You know, there are some black families in this country who have some generational privilege, if not abject wealth. I mean, it's not like we got any Bill Gatesian black families or whatever. But there are black families in this country who grew up solidly above the upper middle class.
The Inkwell crew.
Yeah, the Inkwell crew. You know, and not putting a whole lot on my family. We were never uncomfortable. Okay, so the struggles that many of the peers that I met at FAMU was not something I was familiar with. My father was the 9th black man to graduate from the Air Force Academy. He graduated as a lieutenant. He was a flight instructor at the Air Force Academy. We were living in that was Colorado Springs, y'all. We were living in mostly white enclaves throughout our lives. And we were never at the bottom rung of those white enclaves. We were right there. High school, everything. So I didn't internally expressly face the sort of struggles that Tim Scott did. And even I have the common sense not to fall prey to this foolish BS just because somebody is now shining your shoes. And you've got a seat at the dinner table on the plantation, that's not a plantation outside.
Right.
Just because you on the inside does not mean that the outside isn't tragically horrible.
Absolutely.
And he should know better. That's what kills me. He absolutely should know better.
You act like he doesn't.
Well, I should say he should know better than to traffic in that BS. He should know better than that.
So here's the thing. Again, I like to push my glass up when I'm about to get serious. So here's the thing. Before our current era, and I'm going to take it back to the 1920s, the early 1900s, passing was a physical thing. You could be light enough, you could be white presenting enough to escape from the hardship of living as a black person and pass into white society and hope that none of your kids came out with nappy hair, right? Now, because we are a little bit more refined in how we identify, you know, we have biracial, multiracial, et cetera, it's not as easy to pass in that way. However, there are still some subsets of black people that think they can psychologically and verbally pass into white society. I think that's what Tim Scott thought he was going to be able to do. Here's the thing though, you never, and I'm saying never, will be accepted into that rarefied air, because by nature of your birth and your identity and your visual cues or whatever, you are not them. They can use you as you attempt to enter that space. They can use you to further their own cause, and then they discard you like so much used chicken bones.
Yeah.
Right.
Or
like I said before, they leave $10 on the nightstand and tell you don't call them because their wife is at home. So next thing you know, you're left out in the cold. Tim Scott is going to be left out in the cold eventually. But right now, he's trying to psychologically and verbally pass into that society, and he's going to fail. And similar to what Ice Cube said back in the day, and then you might have a heart attack when you find out the black folks don't want you back. That's going to be a rude awakening.
Rude.
Yeah.
I know it's time for me to go because my son is playing the final game of the Reseda Regents football season, game number 4. They are undefeated 3-0 right now, and I am later than I thought I was. So I am going to sign off, but I will say that the one thing I want to throw out here, just from a pop culture thing, which is a little bit happier, there has been a lot of shipping about 2 characters in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And when Disney got an earful about Baron Zemo doing his little dance move in the show, they released a Zemo cut where they used all of the footage and looped it for an hour and put it out on YouTube. And that was the Zemo cut of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's literally him with some electro synth music doing this. And they looped that for an hour. So what the audiences are really wanting for, because this is something that was teased early on before the season started. Oh, Bucky's going to get with Sam's sister. This is what they want. They want that cut. They want all of the flirting that didn't make it into the final thing. And they want Sam side-eyeing the hell out of Bucky as he was trying to get him up in some Sarah. That's what they want. That's what the people want. Give them what they want, Disney. Go ahead and give them an hour of that. That's all they want. Sharpies, I love you. I'm going to go support my son. And I leave you in the very capable hands of Chuck Hobbs and Joy Stevens. Be with us next week after they finish their stuff. Bye.
For sure, Luke.
I'm sticking around to talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So
okay, I'm gonna have to let you take the lead on that, Joyce, because I haven't begun. So yeah, I'm kind of behind. So go ahead. I know. I'm way behind. So yeah, I got to get up on it. So go ahead, Joy.
All right. So somebody asked, we're going to talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I loved the season. I loved all the episodes. I thought the final episode was a great artistic tribute to the trials and tribulations of Black men in America, particularly Black men in the military in America, and the idea of fighting for a country that hates you. And it was brought home with the character of Isaiah, who, if you haven't seen the show, I won't spoil everything for you, but just understand that they address the ideas and the issues of all of the Black soldiers who have been erased, disregarded, mistreated, overlooked, denied benefits, denied awards, etc. in this country because they were Black and for no other reason. They are out here setting records, being amazing, saving lives, earning Purple Hearts that they don't get. And so I like that they touched on that in a individually encapsulated moment, but I like that they touched on that. I like what they've done in this final episode. And I also like, somebody else pointed out, they could have called the show Institutional Racism and the Way We Treat Our Veterans.
Got you. I
loved it. I thought the show was great.
I'm going to binge this weekend and so I can be up to speed. It's just the last month or so has been crazy, and I just have not had the time to do it. But I'm going to sit down and start to get up on it so that I can talk intelligently about it with you and Tom and Sharon the next time we meet up and what have you. You definitely have piqued my interest without spoiling it for me. So I will be going in though with the concept of thinking about what you just said about what Black veterans have experienced. My dad was career military, career Army, and one of the things that's interesting about that is very similar to a lot of Black men. For our viewers, the movie Boys in the Hood, when Furious was telling Trey that, I served in the Army, but don't ever go in the Army. My dad was pretty adamant that I not follow him in the service, and I didn't. But it was just interesting that for him to have done 20 years in the military and had a really good career with it, that he didn't want his son to have any part of it. And he wasn't as direct and blunt as Furious was in Boys in the Hood, but he was pretty adamant that you can do more with what you're trying to do in life than what I did. Go in a different direction. You've got other opportunities, son. So I'm definitely, and I think that has something to do with it, Joy, the concept of you're out here and you're fighting. I was thinking about Dad earlier when we were talking, when Tom went on the spiel about the Voting Rights Act and what have you. Colin Powell writes about it in his book, but it was applicable to Dad too, just like Tom's dad. My dad came out of FAMU in '63 as a lieutenant. And in 1963, if he was not on base, he would not have been able to vote anywhere in the Deep South at that point in time, because the Voting Rights Act was not signed until 1965. And that hits you hard when you stop and realize that people who were ready to put their lives on the line, which he did a few years later when he got shipped to Vietnam, and yet there was a period of time in his life when he was in the military and Jim Crow would have prevented him from being able to vote for LBJ in 1964. So, we've dealt with a lot of foolishness, and I think all of that ties back into what we were talking about earlier about when you see Tim Scott saying there is no racism, or America is not a racist country. It's frustrating. It's extremely frustrating. I get it. I mean, I know that with him saying it, and I also know with Vice President Harris kind of echoing it and then going in a different direction. And I have to say that because she said, no, America isn't a racist country, but then she hit the but. And I'm one of those people who believes that everything someone says before but is bullshit. So with that in mind, I think her real position was what she said later, which is, hey, Joe Biden and I are working hard to improve A, B, C, D, and E. But at the end of the day, I get it, but it's still frustrating to get it. It's frustrating to think that our vice president can't unequivocally say, you're goddamn right, America's a racist country and we're working to change it. It's a shame that Tim Scott either doesn't know better or knows better and just wants to be so adjacent to the whites in his party that he's going to withhold that. It's frustrating to think that there is that double standard where white politicians, be it former President Trump, be it Louisiana Senator John Kennedy, who went off earlier today, they can say whatever comes to my seat. That's what I'm talking about right there. That's what I'm talking. When I saw that yesterday, I almost choked laughing and what have you, because I read it in Tim Scott's voice. And I mean, but at the end of the day, that's why I'm glad, Joy, that we have our platforms. We have Still Sharp and Still, then we have our separate gigs that we do, because it's important for all of us to raise our voices, be it on social media, traditional media, wherever it is, because we can keep whites that are within our orbit from making the mistake in believing that what Tim Scott said is the gospel truth or
has any merit at all. Yeah,
absolutely, because it's all BS. And so with that in mind, definitely I look forward to, I'm like, how do we get there? But yeah, definitely going to be looking forward to catching up on the Marvel series this weekend.
It's really good. And I spend a lot of time explaining to people the difference between racism, systemic racism, and white supremacy. Racism is prejudice against another race, thinking that yours is better. Anybody can be racist, not just white people. Asian people can be racist. Black people can be racist. They can all say, I don't like them and I think I'm better. Now, the difference with systemic racism is that group that is being racist has the power to control the outcomes of other people.
Amen.
So my dad was super racist. He didn't like white people. He didn't like a whole lot of stuff. He could never stop a white person from getting a job. He could never stop a white person from moving where they wanted to move. He couldn't deny them a loan. But you flip it around, white people who don't like black people had all the power to create an entire country and an entire legal, medical, educational, social systems that said, we don't want you to be a part of this. That's systemic racism.
Yeah.
And even beyond that, white supremacy is something that everyone in this country, including us, have suffered from. We
Absolutely.
got the same history books, the same education, the same idea that classical music was white people's music, classical literature was white literature, art was white art. We saw all of this and we were inundated just like everybody else to believe that white people were superior. Maybe not specifically said, but absolutely intentionally taught. You know, and so I tell people all the time, you may not be racist. You may not have the oops and the racism, but you absolutely white supremacist. If you look at white people and if you look at black people and think that we need to be saved, we can't support ourselves. If you look at Asian people and think that they need to be saved, they can't support themselves, and you think that white people are the only ones to do it because you're just somehow magically smarter than everybody else, you're a white supremacist. If you're a black person and you think black people need to learn to get more like white people, that's suffering from white supremacy. And it's so pervasive. White supremacy is more American than apple pie and baseball.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Joy, you know, what's interesting is that I know you're a little younger than I am, but we both came up in the same time period. And, you know, I talk a lot to my mother. She grew up in Jim Crow, like most of our parents, you know, and so, you know, a lot of times we get into little philosophical debates where she's like, well, we had it worse because of, and no doubt Jim Crow was awful, but I'm like, Mom, you act like sometimes, and I tell her and I get her to laughing. I'm like, you act as if just because the Civil Rights Act was passed in 64 and the Voting Rights Act in 65 and the Fair Housing Act in 68, that all of a sudden the racists went away. I'm like, nah, it got worse because either it went covert or like we were talking about with the Lee Atwater quote, it became shrouded in euphemisms and what have you. But it was the same old Jim Crow. And Joy, and think about it. When we were younger, particularly if you grew up in the Deep South, if you went to integrated schools for a period of time, you were taught and or led by principals and assistant principals and coaches who started their careers during Jim Crow. And so at the end of the day, now it's not an all thing. Some embraced the little young black kids that were coming, but some didn't. And so you stop and you think to yourself, I wonder if when I got sent to the office in first grade for this, was it because I was that rambunctious, or I wasn't that much more rambunctious than blonde-haired Billy and brunette-haired Greg, but I'm the one that got sent to the office? Was it? Yeah, you stop and you conclude and you recognize that we dealt with our own microaggressions. And in fact, and in fact, to a greater extent than even some of our parents and grandparents did in Jim Crow, because we had to deal with them on a day-to-day. There was some comfort in a way with under Jim Crow and being your own neighborhood and going to your own store and what have you. Whereas with us, we got thrown right into the lion's den there in the 1970s, and we had to sink or swim. So, you know, and that's something I want to explore down the line in my writings. You know, I got this one book that I've been working on it for a long time. I'm hoping that it gets published this summer, okay? Because I'm on about the 80th edit of it, but it's hot. I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be good. So hopefully I could get it out and we can talk about it on the show at some point in time. But there's another book in my brain about trying to chronicle our stories, because there's so much scholarship out about the Jim Crow era, but I'm fascinated with the children that came along right after Jim Crow, because there are some fascinating stories that we can tell, and that those who went into those corporate spaces or university spaces when they didn't really want us there, man, those stories need to be told and chronicled as well too for future generations.
You know, it's interesting when you talk about like teachers specifically. I was doing the presentation the other day, and we started talking about the ripple effects of redlining and how, you know, confining Black people to certain neighborhoods, stopping them from being able to get loans to being able to get homes in other neighborhoods, stopping people from being able to get loans to open businesses in the Black neighborhoods. This is why you get whole strip malls that are empty. It's not because people don't want to build business there. It's that banks won't give them the loans to get businesses in there. But now you can't get a job at the corner store because there's no corner store, right? And now you got higher crime, higher unemployment, higher policing. All of this comes from them trying to force people into certain areas and then creating ghettos around us. But in addition to that, when we integrated schools, the white teachers kept their jobs because they were seen as superior educators to the black teachers. The black teachers, by and large, lost all their jobs because they were unqualified and unfit, according to white people, to teach white kids. And people felt that white teachers, having, whatever degrees they may have had or whatever, or just being white, were better equipped to teach anyone. And they put white teachers in black schools, but it didn't go the other way. And this is now you have potentially a woman, because a lot of teachers are women at this time. You have women looking at what they see as a sea of animals that they have to either control or send directly to the principal's office because they're rambunctious, et cetera, et cetera. And this is how you get, interestingly enough, I've talked multiple times about the fact that Black men or Black people get killed at 2.5 to 3 times the rate of white people when it comes to dealing with the police. Black children get suspended and expelled at 2.5 to 3 times the rate of white children. It starts early. That is your school to prison pipeline. And it all starts because white women could not see Black children as people worthy of teaching, let alone, understanding that they may be loud or different or learn differently or have, use a D instead of a TH, or they're ignorant, discouraging them from going to graduate school or college, discouraging them from doing well, setting the bar so low that, you have a disparity in this school versus that school and how they do on standardized tests. Standardized tests have been proven to be white supremacist and racist anyway. All of this comes as a sad byproduct of integration. Trying to get a better life just allowed white women to come in and ruin generations of Black children.
And man, I'm not gonna lie to you. You hit it square on the head, and that's why one of the things that I was always so grateful for is that when I was going into 3rd grade, when Dad moved to Tallahassee, the family moved to Tallahassee, and Dad was coming out of the Army, and I was able to go to FAMU High, which is a K through 12 school, and spend so many years there with teachers who grew up during Jim Crow and started teaching. And boy, they used to talk like wide open. Like some of our teachers were real raw. I see where Stacy had posted that her dad never called white people white. He used the Southern term cracker. And we heard that all the time in school. You got to watch out for them crackers because of blah, 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 blah. And it's one of those things where, again, it helped to train the mind in terms of, yeah, not all are bad, but be careful. And those lessons are still with us. And that's why I get frustrated sometimes. Like, I know that we're both members of the HBCU alumni group. And I know sometimes in our Spelman and Morehouse joint groups as well, you'll see people post, and every now and again I do too, you'll see people post those poll type questions like, hey, what other schools did you consider when you were coming out of high school? Or if you had not gone to Morehouse and Spelman or Florida A&M, where else would you have gone? And what always trips me out is to see the number of Black people who, when they were in 10th, 11th, 12th grade, obviously very bright, took the PSAT, took the SAT, did well, good grades, and had white guidance counselors who were disparaging Spelman College, disparaging Morehouse College, disparaging Florida A&M. And it blows my mind that, like, I think to myself, wow, I don't know how I would have reacted to something like that, because I only applied to HBCUs as an undergrad. I mean, I had recruitment letters from every place you could think of under the sun, particularly in the South. But I wasn't interested in any place but Morehouse, Howard, Hampton, Tuskegee, and FAMU, and then Southern. And only because Southern, interestingly enough, my first cousin, Rolanda Hobbs, pledged on that AKA line in, I think, sometime in 89, spring 89. And they had like 108 AKAs. I always like to tell this story, Joy. And they were coming to spring break my senior year in high school, and she must have had about 8 car loads of them. There was about 40 of them. And so I got home from school that afternoon, and I didn't see nothing but beautiful sisters. Man, I was sitting there thinking like, hey, I might need to get an application to Southern.
Right. I want to go to school wherever that is.
Right. But I'm like, this is what's up. Right. So anyway, just long story short, it trips me out to see how even our brightest kids get projected by sometimes white teachers who might even call themselves allies. Like, well, why do you consider Spelman when you can go over here to Texas A&M? You know, so what are your thoughts about that?
You know, that happened to me. So I applied early decision to Spelman. I didn't want to go anywhere else.
Okay.
It was going to be Spelman, or if I didn't get in early decision, then and only then would I apply to Prairie View A&M, because I'm from Houston, Texas. So Prairie View was up the street. So I was still trying to get far enough away from my mama that she couldn't come check on me on the weekend.
I got you.
You know, so I couldn't go to TSU because that was around the corner from the house. But I remember, now I had a very progressive high school. We had a Black principal in 1991. We had a Black principal, Charlesetta Collins.
Okay.
And she was amazing. She remains an amazing legend in Houston. However, we had a white vice principal. We had several white guidance counselors who, to your point, very progressive. They saw my potential. They saw the greatness in me. They saw the brilliance in me. And they didn't want it to be wasted on a college whose name was not nationally recognized. That's the way it was couched to me. You know, you want to make sure that whatever school you go to, that, you know, when you try to get a job, you know, they recognize the name of the school because it carries a lot of weight. So maybe you want to go to, you know, Rice or, you know, Texas A&M or whatever. I was like, no, I'm going to Spelman for a lot of different reasons. And I'm glad I did. And if you don't know where it is, I will tell you where it is.
There it is.
You know, as you recognize my brilliance, because I am brilliant. And that's not just the wine talking.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter. And so now, and what's funny is, as we talk about diversity and inclusion and everything, more and more people are start coming to understand you don't have to go to Yale or Harvard, et cetera, to be brilliant, to be a genius, to have the best ideas. And that is another form of diversity that I push with corporate entities that I talk to. You got to get away from this name brand bullshit. Because there's a whole lot of people at, you know, Texas Tech is kicking the ass of the folks at Harvard and Yale.
Amen.
It's like the debate that we saw this week, because you know the Morehouse debate team walked out of that debate because they were being mistreated, they were being made fun of, they were being microaggressed against, and of course Spelman was like, "If our brothers out, we out," because they felt it too. And I like that Clemson and a few other colleges were like, "Yeah, we're not down with this." They showed up as allies, but what you're not going to do is treat me like I'm not as good as you.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying I'm better than you, because I will let my scores prove it, but you're not going to treat me like I'm inferior. You will never treat me like I'm inferior.
That's real talk. And you know, I know it was a virtual debate format, and I'm glad that it was, because you can only imagine that had it been in real live time, like in pre-COVID, if somebody had not only done those micro aggressions and what have you, it could have turned something else. Because, you know, in addition to being highly intelligent, many of us also have no problems with like Goodwill Hunting, saying, hey, if we got a problem, we can go outside and see if you want to solve it, you know. And so it's again, it's one of those things where anybody who says that the country still is not racist, again, look at what we were just talking about, the Morehouse and Spelman issue with the debate team. Just look at the news every day, every time. Micaiah Bryant and Dante Wright and all of these, you know, would Dante Wright have been shot if he was a white boy? Would Micaiah have been shot if
would
police
he have been stopped?
Right. You know, and if you have to ask those questions, then that means racism is still very much a present problem that we have to deal with. And again, we have to continue to put the mirror up on America, because that's the only way it's going to change. It's not going to change by begging people and just simply getting on our knees and praying. I mean, I'm way past all that. I mean, it's you're going to stop being racist, and I'm going to keep talking about you and keep writing about it and keep, you know, doing all that we can do, whether it's litigation or whatever, to make sure that the problem gets solved, you know.
You know, I'm going to read it to you. You know, Emma said, I gave an interview with how Blacks are treated at Pepperdine because my dissertation touches upon the history of Blacks at Pepperdine. There's a trend on Instagram called @Blacks@Pepperdine. The trauma is unreal. I will never send my kids to Pepperdine because it is 20 years later and I still have trauma. And she's absolutely right. I have seen similar things, Black at insert white school here. And people talk about the racism that they suffer. Not just microaggressions, straight up violence. Straight up, you know, isolation. If you think about some of our forebearers, some of our ancestors who had to go to white schools because they were the only schools available at the time, and how they had to sit out in the hallway to learn, how they were chased at night, how they weren't allowed to stay on campus because no white people wanted to live in a dorm, not even in a room, but in a whole building with a black person and all that stuff. That kind of shit still goes on. It's not as obvious, but it's just as prevalent. And that's what somebody else was saying earlier, like, you know, it's become overt and it's become covert and subtle, etc. They've got euphemisms for it. They've changed the names, you know. So now they don't call you the N-word, they call you career criminal.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
They don't say
they
appreciate they say we're protecting ourselves.
Yeah, I appreciate Emma sharing that with us, and I'm going to definitely take a look at that hashtag. And Joy, it's funny, you know, I'm thinking about even in our own time, like when we were in undergrad, me and my boys, like every Saturday, we go shoot hoop over at these real nice outdoor courts that were at Emory. And because a lot of people won't know, boy, these young Morehouse guys don't know how really good they have it on campus. We had one raggedy goal down by the tennis courts. And so if you've got 2,000 brothers staying on campus, it was hard to ever get a run because we didn't have intramural facilities at the time. We only had Archer Gym. And so if you wanted to get your ball on, you had to go either over to Georgia Tech or Carter Hall or out to Emory. And so there were these really nice, about 10 different whole courts out in back of the fraternity row out there to Emory. And so I'm talking about for the better part of about a year and a half, we go out there and ball every Saturday. And I'm talking about men who later would go on to graduate to do all sorts of great things. I'm talking doctors, lawyers, judges, record executives, you name it, folks who are doing some amazing things. And we're just out there trying to get our ball on, you know. And one Saturday we rode out there and we used to caravan out there. So we'd be about 10, 12 deep in terms of cars, 4 or 5 brothers per car going out there to shoot ball. We got out there one day and man, they had like a checkpoint out there in that thing. They had the police out there and they were like, hey, you know, are you students at Emory? And we knew at that point, like, wow, the ability to come out here and ball is up, which was a trip to me because having grown up in Tallahassee on FAMU's campus, you know, there was a lot of reciprocity there whereby, you know, if you wanted to go shoot ball over at FSU, nobody was tripping, especially if you had a FAMU ID or something to that effect. And I was just sitting there thinking to myself, like, wow, they wanted to stop 40 to 50 Negroes from coming out there and shooting ball. No trouble, no problem. I mean, sometimes the white guys would come out and try to play and they get run off the court in terms of, you know, because we were just, you know,
jump.
Yeah, exactly. They just weren't as talented as we were with playing, but it just hit that is something that 28 years later, I'm still kind of salty about that, you know, we were made to feel as if we were somehow lesser beings just because we wanted to shoot ball in some hoops, man. It's a trip.
It's a trip. You know, so I'm mad again. And I spend most of my days angry. You know, James Baldwin said to be Black in America and to be semi-conscious is to be in a constant state of rage. And so I am going to finish this bottle of wine that I have over here. And I'm going to take my little happy how yellow ass to bed. Hey,
do that, Joy. And I've enjoyed talking. And again, try to hang in there. And I look forward to hollering again next week. And like we always, Sharpies, our friends, family, and what have you across the world. Thank you all for participating. These conversations, I know they always enlighten me. The chat box is
on fire.
Absolutely. Right. Because, you know, it's good to know that we all are facing these things at the same time and that we're all in this together. So God bless. Joy. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Wait. We'll holler at y'all next week. I did my Sharon impersonation earlier. I'm going to try and do my Tom. So Thank you all for coming out. And for Steel Sharpen Steel, I am Joy Stevens.
And I am Chuck Hobbs.
And you have been watching Steel Sharpens Steel. Wait, where's the little video? Oh, there we go.